2020. That was some bullshit, right? And 2021 doesn't look like it's gonna go so very well either, does it? But we can make it better for each other. Or we can sit by comfortably and allow it to be 2020, the sequel. Or even worse, the squeakquel. And I'm not certain that I can emotionally afford to be heartbroken by another squeakquel. I'm Comrade Faust, and this is Praxis, pals. How many commercials did you hear last year that used a fun little euphemism like, these trying times, these unprecedented times, the new normal, or some other generic nonsense? It was pretty annoying because we all knew what they meant. We collectively went through it together. It was, or is, for me at least, a pandemic. Nearly 2 million people have lost their lives to COVID-19. Is that why 2020 sucked? I mean, plenty of folks were unable to receive proper medical attention, living without health care, without insurance. I personally went through 2020 with no insurance, except for December. I had a scare and I myself spent $275 on a rapid test so I could go to work and, make money. To buy goods, pay for services, keep my lights on, eat. $275 is worth 3 full days of pay for me based on my hourly rate. I say hourly rate like I do anything besides work retail. I spent $275 to get my nose blasted by a handsome nurse on the off chance a normal-ass test would take too long and I would lose more money through not working than I would lose through getting a test. And you know what? Others have it far, far worse than I do. And outside of case numbers, and outside of deaths, what about all those who lost their jobs or who had to shift to working from home? What about the students whose education was interrupted or those that can't handle online education? Not saying that's me, but I failed the hell out of my classes. What about kids? Kids who don't get to see their friends, who don't get their normal childhood, the kind that I had. People who are stuck at home with their abuser. People falling back into addictions. People who are having trouble with their mental illnesses and maybe they can't see their therapist. A lot of people have not been able to see their mental health care providers. Is that it? Is that why 2020 sucked? It could be unemployment. We know that there are those who are unable to pay their rent, who on top of all the other bullshit going on in the year 2020 Anno Domini, might lose shelter, or they might be left sleeping in their car. Should they be lucky enough to have a car? All of us, collectively, we know that was a possibility. Then there were those who had trouble seeking work at the start, before we opened back up the economy. Boy howdy, I can't say thank you enough that we open back up the economy. Like most Americans, they didn't have enough savings to live off of. And even if they knew their landlords would show mercy, they wondered how long the food would last. Is that it? Is that why 2020 sucked? Or maybe it's Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, and countless others who have had their lives stripped away from them without any just cause. We all watched the video. We all saw an innocent man slowly die in 8 minutes and 46 seconds. We all saw the protests. We saw the protesters brutalized, shot with rubber bullets, tear gassed, shoved into unmarked vans, and murdered. And all for the belief that Black Lives Matter, and that racists should not be allowed to kill with impunity. Then you saw corporations play like allies, making their profile pictures #BLM or a black square. Completely empty gesture. Is that why 2020 sucked? How about the ICE detention camps? The literal concentration camps erected along the border, where children and their guardians are separated and given aluminum blankets to sleep with. Are we upset about the inhumane treatment of asylum seekers? Are we disturbed by the images of children in cages? Is this why you're upset? Are you upset that justice is not being done? Our prisoners don't have soap during a pandemic? Those who wanted to be safe and traveled to our borders are facing sexual assault by the guards, our government employees. Is that it? Of course, it's not just one of these issues. No, it's all of them, right? It's all of this is happening at once. That's unique to 2020. That's the difference. Then 2021 comes around. January 6th happens. An attempted coup with bombs firearms, zip ties, and spilled blood. And we know who was to blame. We know who stoked these flames, and we know he washed his hands of it, just like he washed his hands of the deaths caused by the mishandling of the pandemic. He said he loved them, and it's not his fault. He said it's not his fault, but when Charlottesville happened, they were good folks, right? Right, that's why 2021 will suck. Tell me why 2021 is gonna suck. It's the year. It's fate against us, isn't it? But hey, we get a little treat. Joseph Kropotkin Biden. Joe Guevara. Joseph Ilyich Biden. Joseph Stalin. Joseph Biden, that radical loony lefty, will be our next president. And he'll fix all of the societal ills by making sure, in his words, nothing will fundamentally change. You want nothing to change after that? Hey, and don't worry about those white supremacists. Twitter banned Donald Trump and Parler is gonzo. And and I both know, fascists have never been able to communicate without social media and apps. So this will be new. And our representatives are talking about healing and reuniting the country. And don't you want to reunite with those fellas shouting racial slurs? The fellas naming breakfast cereals as they punch each other? Oh, they pinky promise each other not to jerk off. Would you rather welcome back those guys? How about the ones saying, we will not be replaced? Jews will not replace us. Don't you want to unite with them? Heal with them? I don't. The fact is, none of this is new. The issues were just illuminated and magnified, and we were forced to confront the shortcomings and faults of the current system. We were made to look at capitalism, fail real humans, and cause our fellow man and women and non-binary friends to be subjected to inhumane torment. We had to feel capitalism fail us. I felt it, and I'm certain that you felt it too. We, as the working class, were offered up as a sacrificial lamb to the economy. Some of us were called essential, myself included, not to brag, and then given a few dollars to keep our heads above water. And guess what? It is not and will never be enough. I don't care if it's $600, I don't care if it's $2,000. That is not enough for the failings and what we have to go through. The fears and anxieties related to health aren't unique or new, not at all. According to the CDC, in 2019, 12% of Americans under 65 had no health insurance. That number is nearly 33 million people who had no health insurance in 2019. That number includes your friends, your neighbors, your coworkers, and some people you see every day. That number includes children. There's a reason we call it a healthcare crisis. Of course, many of us are privileged enough that we don't need to see the doctor, but many of us don't have that option. Diabetes doesn't care that you have no health insurance. You will have to find a way to pay for that insulin, and the price of a monthly supply can be as high as $1,400. How do you pull yourselves up by the bootstraps when you're faced with those kinds of monthly expenses? The working class has been underserved since before we were called the working class, but suddenly the issues we've struggled with on a daily basis became fodder for an argument against lockdown measures. We faced addiction. We faced homelessness, abuse, mental illness, all of this before the pandemic. And now the argument is that without jobs and schools to go to, we will have no escape, since when was working or going to school considered a break? We can't keep the kids from going to school or they'll go hungry. Well, why in the name of Satan have you not been addressing this issue that you've apparently identified? If these issues had been identified, why are y'all not working for a solution? And the solution to a mental illness can't be send him to work. And sending an abuser to his office isn't an appropriate solution or substitution to giving societal aid and services to his victims or removing his victims from his abuse. And unemployment is not new. It's never been new. And this isn't about whether or not there's enough jobs to go around. And quick tip, there's always enough jobs to go around. It's just that the capitalist dogs decided to not give them out because it's cheaper to employ fewer people. And that'll always be the answer. The issue is that some people are literally unable to work. Some people are literally too poor to work. And that's not an exaggeration. That is not some quote from a satire about late-stage capitalism. It's that childcare costs money, and some people have kids. Clothes for work cost money. And the most depressing fact, an address costs money. And some people do not have an address. Often, that is a necessary piece of information to go on your application to get a job. And of course, many people have significant disabilities, and that makes some forms of employment impossible for those people. Or, it can make it difficult to keep a job. In the 1600s, we had Indian constables. Their jobs were to subjugate the indigenous people of present-day New England and beyond. Later, we had slave patrols, groups of real shitheels whose sole purpose was to catch enslaved people who ran for freedom. And not only did they return them to their captors, there was no problem if they were to harm the enslaved people they caught. Sexual assaults, physical beatings, whatever they wanted, these enslaved peoples were not seen as equal to their captors. Later, we had what more resembled a modern-day police. Remember reading in high school history class about workers wanting 8-hour day, basic safety measures, something closer to fair wages? We still haven't gotten fair wages, by the way. Or remember the Homestead strike or the coal strike of 1902? The police were there, suppressing workers. Remember the Haymarket massacre? The police were there, suppressing workers. And now we are allowed to have a class of people who are allowed to kill with impunity and only be suspended with pay, while their supervisors wait an appropriate amount of time before they bring them back on the force. And then, when the common man rises up and asks that they stop murdering humans, they're called rioters and murdered in cold blood. A man in his 70s faced police brutality for that same reason. You saw it. It's on film. I've been arrested. I've been harassed. And guess what? I got off easy. Because I am white. I'm not in this statistical window of people facing the real blunt of police misconduct because of the color of my skin. But that doesn't mean you and I are safe. That man in his 70s was white, and their job is to oppress workers. We're just not their favorite target if you're white. No, none of this is new. And it's not going away. Pretty crazy how Trump built those ICE detention camps though, right? Almost unbelievable that he did it. It is unbelievable because Obama was the one that built them. Granted, Trump made them a far worse place and began family separation policies. An intentional decision to discourage asylum seekers by allowing these concentration camps to become as terrifying as possible. These are nightmarish for even existing, but they only point to a larger issue. President Trump catered to white supremacist fascists and Fred Perry wearing tough guys. He incited racial violence time and again. He spread conspiracy theories and lies while insisting the media catching him, or at least catching half of his bullshit, were themselves liars, the lying media. And do I even need to bring up QAnon by name? All presidents have been imperialists, bourgeoisie oppressors, and enforcers of capitalism. Most of them were racist too. But Trump is perhaps the first fascist president of the United States. Why in the glorious name of Lucifer did it take an armed insurrection for anyone to do a damn thing about that? And most Americans did not vote for him. The majority have wanted him removed from office for a long while, right? It's because we as Americans do not live in a democracy. We live in a representative democracy, and though we can pick the nicest representatives, they are still divorced from us as the working class. They have a career to worry about. They have money to worry about, and the thing is, the average worker cannot afford to lobby them. Only businesses can do that. We can't take revenge on them, no. Only businesses and their colleagues can do that. But how can we stop this? Is there an end that can be reached? What can we do if our representatives fail us and our democracy is built to ensure that the worker has hardly any voice? We make our voices heard. Agitation, demonstrations, work stoppages. Whatever we need to do. We form tenant unions. We refuse to pay our rent and keep each other safe from eviction. We break into empty homes and give a person without a home a place to squat. We scrawl slogans on bathroom stalls if we have to. We feed each other, especially those who cannot feed themselves. Remember, socialists need to be with each other. We are socialists because we're in this together. Socialize. Talk to your comrades. Find comrades. And if you can't find any, make some. Educate. Set up a local branch of Food Not Bombs. Do something. Anything. The revolution isn't waiting for when it's convenient. It's not going to be about carrying a banner into battle and tossing a Molotov cocktail into the Starbucks. It looks like mutual aid and building a community. And remember, the bread is not secured until the bread is secured for all of us. Thank you to Tennessee Sooner, one half of Praxis Pals, my friend and comrade who is editing this video. If you liked us, smash that like button, hit subscribe, ring that bell. Leave a comment if you liked us, and if you didn't like us, can you tweet at Papa John's about that? He'll take care of it. Good luck out there.